Last day's the 9th, so I'll just start driving it.
For what paper is it?
It's ever heard the Alan Kovacevic used to listen to the Post-Gazette in the trip. He started his own place, his own website.
And you be Steelers beat writer?
Yeah.
Keep me in the loop, man.
That I will.
Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
See, I pay attention.
Like you guys do.
So,
What have you seen out of your defense the first couple of days?
yesterday was better than the first day. I thought the first day everybody's kind of excited and running around like schoolyard football. You know, we just had to coach practice etiquettes and attention to detail, and you know, I thought the coaching staff did a good job with regard to that, and the leaders on the defensive side, you know, really did a good job, you know, kind of emphasizing our style of play, our practice etiquette, you know, what we want to accomplish during the course of practice, and there's really good improvement from practice 1 to 2.
Because one of the main focuses for you at this point is trying to identify the third, fourth, and fifth linebackers.
One of many, but yeah, sure. I think, you know, at the linebacker position, you know, through 2 practices, you know, Kirkland and Maven have set the pace. I mean, their pursuit to the ball from sideline to sideline has been impressive. Obviously, we're just in helmets, so make what you want of that. But I thought they've run to the ball well. But you know, I've said it before. You know, really, I think the 3 guys that have separated from the rest of that group then are Jumper. You know, the middle linebacker, he's got a high football IQ. He plays hard, and he always plays with a chip on his shoulder. And the 2 guys at the will position are, you know, Cortez McDowell and Cortez Sapp are continuing to compete for the spot behind Jalen. And all those guys are going to play, and all those guys are going to get great opportunities in camp before the opening game.
Do you see a difference conditioning-wise?
Yeah, I think, you know, Coach Sershin and the staff did a great job over the course of the summer. You know, we made great gains, strength and power-wise in the weight room, I thought. And, you know, my challenge to them was to come back to camp in the best shape of their lives so we can practice the way we want to practice. And, you know, obviously, you know, be able to play 1 snap at a time for the entire game. And so that was a point of focus. And Coach Jones has set the tone. I keep talking about our style of play, about, you know, running on the field, transitions between drills and things like that. So, you know, that requires us to be in good condition. I've been very pleased through 2 days.
Has the SEC changed since your last go-around here in terms of more spread teams and maybe some ways you may have to modify your defense from the Big Ten?
Not just the SEC, just the game itself has evolved. You know, it's ever evolving. I mean, it began to change. I think I joked my first year at Vanderbilt in 2011. I think there were only half the teams in the country made over 400 yards a game, and there was 30 or 40 teams that held teams under 300 yards a game. You know, in the last 5 years, that statistic has changed. I'm sure somebody here is going to look it up at some point, but how many teams averaged over 400 yards a game last year? I think there's only a handful of teams that gave up less than 300 yards a game. Snaps have increased. The style of play has increased, you know, with the tempo and the spread offenses and the advent of the RPOs. So it's a great challenge for us as defensive coaches to try to keep up and, you know, with the evolution of offenses.
In addition to linebacker, what are some of your other priorities the first couple of weeks of camp?
Priorities the first couple weeks of camp, I always say this, continuing to establish championship culture on our side of the ball. Our room's really good. You know, we start up every meeting with either a joke of the day or a word of the day, and you know, we got a close-knit group. So, you know, we always emphasize our core values of playing the game with passion, great toughness, and a team-first mindset. You know, so that's first. Second, we really talked about individual improvement, player development. You know, if we can improve our players individually, you know, collectively we'll be better. So third was, you know, especially this first week, we talked about techniques over tactics. It's, you know, it's all about fundamentals. It's about football 101. It's about a good stance, a good alignment, reading your keys, becoming experts at running to the ball, beating blocks and tackling, you know, playing good in the back end. A next target for us has been ball disruptions. We've been using the phrase hunt the ball. That's a big term for us. You know, hunt the ball. We have, you know, one of those scopes with crosshairs right there and a ball, and everything we're doing is about hunting the ball, whether it's creating more interceptions, whether it's more strip attempts. That's an area we feel can help take our game to the next level. And then it's about installing our packages. You know, and as I said, it's been really, you know, base packages to start. At some point here, we'll start to get into some of our pressures and things like that, and working well with Coach Debo on situational football, whether it's 1st and 10. Today we're practicing 3rd down, whether it's practicing the red zone. whether it's practicing the clock situations.
What's the cheat sheet at safety? You're replacing two seniors there at that spot. What's most important to you? Is it football IQ, explosiveness? Just what are you looking for there?
Both and more. Safety play, it's funny, I always say requires, you got to have linebacker toughness, because you have to do things in the box that require you to support the run, to be a good tackler, to be physical. They require a corner skill set, because more and more nowadays you have to cover slot receivers and fast guys in open space. And you have to have a quarterback's mentality. So when we, in the local paper, that's the one ad I put out. I'm looking for guys with linebacker toughness, a corner skill set, and a quarterback's mentality. So football intelligence is very, very important. The ability to understand angles and be physical at the point of attack, and the ability to understand angles and have range and good ball skills in the pass piece.
What have you seen from Evan Berry to this point?
He's pretty good. He's explosive. He, you could certainly didn't take Mel Kiper to make that statement there. The guy had, X amount, 3 kickoff returns and an interception return for touchdowns last year. He's really fast and explosive and big and strong, and obviously he wasn't out there in the spring a whole lot. So through the first days of practice, I think the first day, he's an example of a guy I thought the first day was a little out of control and not a significant amount of attention to detail. His effort was there. And in day 2, he made some plays on the ball. He's continuing to get, back into the swing of things, and I think he's a guy that, is going to have a role on our defense.
Bob, how good is your competition going to be back there at safety when you look at the bodies you have to work with?
Really good. It's not just, there is competition within the framework of position, but it's also, again, I think one of the things that we can bring to the table, and I said this in the defensive meeting to the unit, everybody that deserves to play will play, and the amount that they deserve to play. So I'm not averse to playing a lot of guys, and I think over the course of a long season, especially early when you're playing, all these tempo, no huddle teams are going to run 85 to 90 snaps a game, and again, we're searching for those 25 points in the fourth quarter and a key third down or things like that. We'll develop packages that get some of those guys on the field, and TK, Todd Kelly's picked up where he left off in the spring. Rashawn Gaulden's had a good first 2 days. Mike Abernathy's had a really good first 2 days. Having Evan Berry back has been very positive. And the other 2 guys that I'd like to acknowledge at the safety position are Stephen Griffin, who's really made great improvements from the spring, has worked hard to put himself in a position to have a role. And the rookie, Nigel Warrior has done a good job and made a good first impression the first 2 days. Here's a guy who, isn't always going in the right direction, but he's got a skill set that, that merits us spending more time with him and helping him get ready for the opening game.
You talked a lot in the spring about the defensive line and all the guys that you didn't have at that point. Now that you got them all back, are they?
It looks different out there.
Yeah.
It definitely looks different out there. I mean, at the end position, I mean, it's 3 deep, which is pretty legit. I mean, Derek Barnett is as advertised after 2 days. He's the heart and soul of the group on defense. He says jump, the guys say how high. He says run, they say how fast. He's that type of leader. He's kind of my muscle, if you will, my enforcer. Seeing Corey Vereen out there, and I've said this again, I think by the end of the year, people are going to be talking about him nationwide. He had a touchdown in practice yesterday on a fumble recovery return. He's done well. But Troy Lewis this spring, here's a guy who's a veteran. I think of he and Danny O'Brien, and I always talk about Kenny Bynum as the fifth-year guys who are kind of the veterans who've seen the good and bad, the ugly of the SEC and different things. So I have a tremendous amount of respect for him. Jonathan Kongbo, he's learning how to be a Division I football player, but he's got the size and skill set to be a really good player. And then, to be honest, I haven't even mentioned the fact that Kyle Phillips has 2 sacks in 2 days and coming off his injury. And, Darryl Taylor and Damari Nixon are guys who practiced really well the first 2 days as well. So that's 7 DNs right there that I got to find reps for at some particular point. Now, in some packages and sometime one of those guys or more might practice inside at different times as well.
So how much of that is moving a guy inside? How much of that is because of kind of how thin you are? I think 4 scholarship guys out there yesterday at tackle. I mean, is there a big need to find one of those guys that can slip in, or how do you solidify that rotation?
Yep, you're exactly right. And obviously inside, those guys are warriors. The job they did in the spring practicing and the job they did these first 2 days. I mean, Shai, Shai's doing what he's capable of doing, as Coach said. Khalil's lost the type of weight he's lost. We challenged him to do that, and he's done that. And I think obviously it's hard to tell when you're in no pads with the lineman, but he's been as we expected the first couple of days. Danny O'Brien, as I said, is just kind of a leader and kind of a lunch pail type guy and done a really good job. Khalil, Danny. Who else do we have out there?
Quay.
Kendall. Yeah, Kendall's a guy. He's in that same boat. He's kind of getting it back after missing the spring, but he solidified the whole thing and done really well. So yeah, the fact that you're thinner inside and deeper outside, I'm going to find it hard getting even reps for 7 guys on the perimeter. So we have packages and we have thoughts to work. Derek inside has volunteered to do that at times and has done that in the past in certain packages. Jonathan Kongbo, we had a kid at Penn State, Anthony Zettel, who was a rotational D end, and he moved into 3 technique, and he was the Big Ten Defensive Lineman of the Year in 2014. You transition a guy to a big 3 technique who's explosive and dynamic and all those things, he might have a bright future. And the other guy we've talked about is Mixon too, getting in some reps inside as well.
Bob, Butch Jones has brought up the competition at the second cornerback spot numerous times. Kind of break down that competition. You need to find a guy.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, through the first 2 days, I thought the guys, have practiced at a pretty good pace. The competition and when you talk about the competition at the second corner position, there's several variables in there. It's not just Justin Martin and Emmanuel Mosley, although they're the guys who have the most playing time. It's factoring in whether you might play, Mike Abernathy at the nickel and move Malik Foreman or Marquell Osborne, out there or something along those lines. So it's really finding, like you would in any other situation, your best 5 guys for the nickel package right there and putting them all in a position. They have positional versatility. I think Tyrod Matthews signed, today the richest contract for a safety in the NFL, but he doesn't even play safety. He plays the nickel corner, he plays safety, he plays outside corner. So we've got a lot of guys, Micah Abernathy for one, Malik Foreman, Marquell Osborne, Rashawn Golden, who practice at a lot of different positions. And it'll be about finding the right match and putting those guys in the right situation to, for what the opponent or what the situation dictates.
What was it?
Go ahead, do one more.
What was that conversation like in the meeting room when you were losing Tyler Bird to Zach Azzani on the offensive side? I know a guy played a lot of DB in high school All-American at safety.
You had to bring it up. Again, I mean, I think one of the things that's really kind of unique about our team is that Coach DeBoard, Coach Scott, who's coordinating the special teams, and myself all have had coaching experience. So I think we all are big picture thinking and understand it's what's best for the team. And in the slot receiver position, Coach felt that was best for the team. And Tyler's certainly a dynamic athlete who can excel on either side of the ball and on special teams. Although we, certainly think he's could be a tremendous safety and a tremendous addition to the secondary, it's whatever's best for the team. And through the first days of practice, it's funny because I don't know all the numbers of the rookie offensive players, but a couple times I've asked, who's that? And they go, that's Bird. So, I mean, he's made a first impression on one-on-ones and a couple different things like that. So he's clearly a player who can be an upper-level SEC player.
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, guys.